so excited to have you all with us this morning. But again, I'm excited. We're excited. Welcome to Collierville Victory Garden. We have a lot to show you this morning. We have our team out there. We have an excellent team. They're ready to go. We have Miss Leah, who's going to talk about her zinnia garden. She's going to talk about the origin of the garden. We have Miss Deanna, who's going to talk about our pollinator garden. Then we're going to take a little break. We're going to go to a presentation from Miss Mary Lee Hood. She's going to talk about our hort therapy project. Then we're going to come back to the garden. We're going to throw it out to Miss Val. She's going to talk about our veggie trials. And then we're going to end it with Miss Teresa. She's going to talk about irrigation. She's going to talk about worms, and she's going to talk about compost. So again, sit back, relax. Let's have a good time. Let's learn about Collierville Victory Garden. Again, I'm excited that you all are here. And I will say this, Miss Teresa is definitely looking forward to this, but Miss Twyla, who's one of our real leaders out here, couldn't be here with us today, but she's joining us online. So how you doing, Miss Twyla? I know you'll be proud of the work that you will see today. So again, I'm gonna get out of the way because I'm excited about doing this. So I'm just gonna turn it back to Dr. Natalie, and now I'm gonna head out to the garden, okay? So thank y'all for being here. Let's have a good time, all right?
We're excited because we actually have volunteers here on site. So to give you a little bit of background for that, Friday morning is the regularly scheduled morning for the volunteers who work at the Collierville Victory Garden. So we ran that by our administration, and they were good with that because, you know, it's not an official extension activity. They decided to come this morning. It was their regular work day. So you're going to be able to hear a little bit from them. Of course, everybody's properly distanced. We've got our masks. So we are all excited to be able to share with you all today. And so Chris is on his way out to the garden. We're actually right here ourselves in the foyer of the church that hosts the Victory Garden. And so we're ready to turn the floor over to the volunteers to hear a little bit about what's going on at the Collierville Victory Garden. Are y'all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, take it away.
And I'm one of the volunteers here at the Collierville Victory Garden. The garden was founded in 2007 by a few enthusiastic Master Gardener interns. And they started it at a different property for 2 years, moved it here to the property of Collierville Christian Church. And we're very grateful to the church for letting us use their land and the water. The garden is led by Master Gardener volunteers. We grow vegetables and perennials, and they're all donated to local charities. Some of those charities are Collierville Food Pantry, Catholic Charities Downtown, and the Mariah House Women's Shelter. We're also a plant-a-row project where gardeners are all encouraged to grow an extra row of vegetables in their garden for donation to local food pantries and soup kitchens. Here at the Collierville Victory Garden, we donate all of our produce to charity. And you may wonder about the name Victory Garden. That term came up during World War I when the food supply was diminished because and a lot of the farm workers having to go to war instead of farming. So the government encouraged people to grow their own vegetables. And then they did it again in World War II. And at that time, 30% of the vegetables grown in the U.S. came from Victory Garden. And we also grow zinnias here for donation. And we have up here at the front, we have 4 beds. I'll show you 2 of them today. 4 beds of zinnias. We start in April after the last chance of frost. And we like to sow the seeds directly, since zinnias can sometimes be upset by transplanting, and they might grow more slowly that way. So we just plant them directly. We'll start by tilling up the soil with a shovel. Then we put mulch on it and pull the mulch back from each spot that we want to plant in. And we'll put 3 seeds in each spot just to ensure germination. And then we'll thin them out to just one per spot once they're germinated. And we have chosen to have taller varieties because they're easier to arrange in the vases. These get donated to Paige Robbins Adult Day Center. It's a place for adults with memory loss. And they put the vases on their tables, their lunch tables, so that they can enjoy them during the day. Let's see. We also space them about 12 to 18 inches apart. That helps with airflow through them, and that helps prevent the powdery mildew. And that's always been kind of an issue with zinnias, that they do tend to want to have that, especially in our hot and humid climate. And another thing that helps with preventing powdery mildew is we have drip irrigation. So mostly just the roots get watered and the leaves don't get as much water on them. Right now we have the drip irrigation set to 10 minutes every other day. And this year we chose all varieties from Park Seed, and I can show you some of the different varieties we have. This one is called Queenie Lime Orange. This is Parks Pick White, Parks Pick Yellow. This one is Parks Pick Deep Red. And those will get to be about 3 to 4 feet tall, so they make for very easy arrangements. This is called Envy. It's kind of a greenish yellow. And this is new for this year. It's Red Spider, and it's a very tiny little zinnia, and it gives some interest, some variety. Then you can come on over here. I'll show you this one. Oh, this one is the Giant Cactus Mix, and it comes in different colors. You don't know which color it's going to come up. Here's another one of the same. This is Giant Cactus Mix. It's kind of pinkish. So then we also have Parks Pick Lilac. This is another Envy. Okay, and this one is called Hidden Dragon. So we come out here every Monday and we'll cut and arrange and put them into 12 vases and take them to Paige Robbins, and they say they really appreciate it and that it brightens their day. And now I'll turn you over to Deanna Ott.
Welcome to the garden. We're so glad you're here today. I'm here to talk a little bit about perennials, but first we got to do a little walking, so we have a little bit of walk time. As Leah said, she does the zinnias, and there are 4 beds, so we're going to walk past beds 3 and 4. As she noted, there are tags on most of the plants because we want to be educational also. We want people who come out and visit to know if they see a plant, they can order it online by name, or they can find it maybe in the big box stores. We're going to go back to the back of the garden where we have perennials in this beds 3 and 4 back here. The first bed we're going to look at has perennials in large pots. You can't tell it, but we have turf grass all around this area. So one of our big challenges is to keep the grass out of the flowers. So we have the barrier here. The bed was dug out, there's sand layers, there is landscaping fabric, and then we have mulch. And if that wasn't enough, we've lifted them out and put them in pots. Now, one of the reasons we have them in pots is because it's easier to lift them out and divide them later. Also, we can control the mix of the soil much easier. Today, we have all kinds of beautiful things blooming here. We try to have things blooming from early spring with narcissus all the way to the fall with the goldenrod. So right now we're kind of like late spring blooming. We have blanket flower. This is called Arizona Red Shades. It has been blooming literally for about a month now, and it draws all kinds of bees to it. This is a coneflower lemon drop. This is called Hummingbird Golden Jubilee. When we first started the garden with perennials, we were working with Habitat for Humanity, and we would provide plants for some of their projects. But since then, Habitat now gets their donations from the big box stores, and we continue to do perennials, mainly just to draw pollinators to our vegetable garden. So we kind of have surrounded the garden with our perennials. This is our large plot section. The next section we have is where we grow plants for sale at our Spring Fling fundraiser. I wanted to show you one thing. We double pot these so that they're easier to lift out when we're ready to sell them. And also, the second pot has sand in it, so they don't go down deep, and it's just an easier way to divide them. In the spring and in the fall, we have volunteers who come, and we have perennial day. We divide them, we take inventory, we repot things. Thankfully, in this area, we have overhead irrigation, which really is a blessing because, as we all know, it gets hot and dry in Memphis in the summer. So very thankful for that. I wanted to point out the bird bath we have. We have around the garden, we have a martin house. We also have bluebird boxes. This year, we're very thankful that we have birds in both of them. We have blueberries growing right beside it. So that's always a bird attractor for sure. Next, we're going to walk to the sign bed. It's in the front, and I wanted to show you because it's a project that a volunteer has done recently. We had some leftover wood, and he's made 2 benches for us. The bed was there before, but we've added to it, so I just wanted to show you the work that our volunteers have done. It's pretty exciting. We have wood laying around because, as in every kind of volunteer situation, you really don't throw anything away. It could be of use later. So let me show you the benches that have been built. We have one in the front and one in the back, and we have people all the time who are here. But this is a beautiful bed. Again, lots of pollinators. We have coneflowers. This is oregano, and look at this gorgeous bloom. You don't get that in the grocery store, but there are bees all over it. We have salvia blooming. We have blue-black salvia. We also have speedwell veronica. We've had lots of volunteers helping with this project. The original part was there, but we have added to it. I want to show you one more thing in the front. Our sign in the front tells us the poundage that we have donated so far. So far we've donated 872 pounds of produce to local charities. That's pretty awesome, and we're very, very excited about that. One more stop and I'm done. Let me show you the beds in the front. We have 2 perennial beds in the front, and these are sort of our welcome to the garden. People can see them from the parking lot. We try to have things blooming all the time. So today we have some all kinds of things. We have Russian sage, we have lavender, we have mums. Let me show you these bushes right here. They're called Gara, and I've heard them, they're called wandflower also, whirling butterflies. And they absolutely are loved by bees. One thing I can't let you get by without seeing is our gorgeous gladiolus right now. Isn't that beautiful? In this section over here, we have a few more things that I want to show you. The lavender is blooming right here in the back, absolutely gorgeous. You also have phlox. Thankfully, these beds are also drip irrigated, and that helps us so much with water. We get water from the church, and we're very thankful that they are so good to us here. We have daylilies, and I wanted to show you the sage that's blooming at the end. I enjoy volunteering here because my beds at home are mostly shade. So I'm very thankful that I get to work in the sun and with wonderful volunteers here. The next section is going to be with Dr. Chris, and I'm going to hand it over to him now.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Deanna. We appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Leah. Excellent information. I hope you all are enjoying it so far. So now we're going to talk about another Master Gardener project. It's our horticulture therapy project at Apple Grove. Okay? Horticulture therapy is very important at this time, as you well know. So we're going to throw it to Ms. Mary Lee Hood. Take it away, Ms. Mary Lee.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. And I appreciate this opportunity to share something that's near and dear to my heart. And that's the horticulture therapy program that we do here in Memphis with an organization called Apple Grove. So Apple Grove is an assisted living residence here in Memphis that's totally dedicated to memory care. And our group of Master Gardener volunteers has been going there for a number of years. And we go out there usually one afternoon a month, and we spend about an hour leading a horticulture related activity. So what exactly is horticulture therapy? There are a number of different definitions, but I think this one summarizes best what we do at Apple Grove. We engage the folks there with horticulture related activities that they're fun, they're hands-on, they stimulate their minds, and ideally help our friends there reduce stress and increase relaxation. I became involved in the Master Gardener Project in 2017 when I was an intern, and my mentor Donna was running the program, and she invited me to join the group. And then about a year or so later, she asked me to take it over. And I didn't know a whole lot about horticulture therapy, but soon after I had the opportunity to go to a 2-day workshop on hort therapy that was held at the Memphis Botanic Garden. And I strongly recommend anybody thinking about developing a horticulture therapy program to seek out some training. There's lots of options out there. At the training I attended at the Botanic Garden, one of the facilitators was a certified horticulture therapist who works at the UT Gardens in Knoxville by the name of Derek Stillwell. And he was really great. He shared lots of information on the programs he offers there at UT, as well as in the local community. And he also does work with dementia patients. So some of his tips were very, very helpful to me. So after taking this course, I felt really equipped to run our program at Apple Grove. And as a former teacher, I was really fired up to develop activity plans with goals and expected outcomes and all that. But that's not exactly how it always worked out. And I'll just give you one example of why you have to be a little bit flexible when you're doing horticulture therapy, especially at a place like Apple Grove. So Apple Grove has a beautiful courtyard area where the residents are free to come and go as they please. And within this courtyard, there's a large brick raised bed that the administrator said we could use as we wish for our activities. So the first time we decided to do a planting there, we arrived as usual in the common area inside and met our friends, and we announced that we were going to go outside and we were going to plant some flowers. And the residents just looked at us, and a lot of them just shook their heads and said, no, we don't want to do that. And we said, come on, it will be fun. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It's fresh air. It's live plants. It's horticulture therapy. And they said, no, it's too hot. It's too cold. It's too buggy. I don't want to get dirty. I have allergies. Well, with some little help from some of the staff and all of us master gardeners, we were able to coax a few people outside, and they really had a great time. And we'll keep revisiting this raised bed area and continue to plant there. And who knows, maybe it was just this particular group that didn't want to do this. Next time they will. But now whenever we plan an outside activity here, we will divide and conquer. And some of us will be outside with the residents, and some of us will stay inside, and we'll just do a craft activity for those who prefer to do that. And so, but it was a great day overall. So now let me just briefly share with you some of the indoor activities that we do. I got some ideas from the workshop I attended, and I'm always getting some things off of Pinterest and some other people that do this kind of thing. And I try to get feedback after each activity with the other master gardeners who help, and see what they think worked and what didn't. So we now have a pretty good binder of activities that we can do throughout the year. One of the most popular activities is flower arranging, and the residents seem to really enjoy that. So we'll pick up a couple bouquets of flowers from Kroger, and then we'll go in our yards and gather up some greenery, and we repurpose some glass and plastic containers. And our Apple Grove friends have a great time with this, and they get really creative, and they're working with their hands, and some are capable of making the selections and such themselves and arranging and decorating, and others need a considerable amount of help from us. But everyone's really enthusiastic, and you can just see them perk up over the course of the time that we spend there. And this woman never misses any of our activities. She's always enjoying and very intensely arranging these dried flowers in the fall. She really enjoys being with us, except for going outside. She's not a fan of that. This was our last activity that we did. Unfortunately, the last time we met was in early March, but we had a generous donation of leaf castings that was made by one of our other master gardeners, and the residents had a great time painting them. We tend to make a lot of messes, but the staff doesn't really seem to mind. The staff seems to enjoy our activities as much as the residents do there. So here's some painting, leaf castings. We try to tailor our projects to the seasons as much as we can. Here's another tabletop decoration for fall. This was a fun winter scene that was made using broccoli stalks that were dipped in white paint, and then they were dabbed onto this tree template. And then the scene was filled in with cotton ball snow and stickers. Yeah. We really try to make our time with our friends there as supportive and joyous as we can. We, the master gardeners, will meet up in the lobby. When everybody shows up, we share last minute instructions on what the activity is. And then we really try to take a minute or two to get ourselves in the mood and put everything else on our minds aside, so that when we walk into that common room, we just have these huge smiles on our faces, and you can really just see their faces light up as they really seem to perk up during our time there. And again, it's a break for the staff, who just work terribly hard all the time, and they seem to enjoy it too. Here we finished up our activity, and the social director put on some oldies music, and one of our master gardeners couldn't help dancing with her friend there. I have to admit that after my first visit to Apple Grove back in 2017, I walked out that door and I was determined that I was never going to come back. I had never been around anybody with dementia before. I had never been in a facility like that before, and it was it's a beautiful facility, but it was just very, very difficult for me to see these beautiful people dealing with this horrible, horrible disease. But I have to admit that now I'm a big fan, because I realize that what we're doing is really important, and it really does make a difference in their lives. And it's the horticulture therapy, it's probably less horticulture than we originally thought it would be, and more therapy. But when we leave, we know that each one of those people had a smile on their face that they might have not have had for a long time, and for even just a very short period of time, they were relaxed, and some of their cares were taken away. These are some of I reached out to the other volunteers when I was putting this together, and I said, what are your thoughts on what we do and what benefit people get out of it? And so these are just some of the comments that I received back from the other master gardeners. I think we're all in agreement that it's an important program, and it's worthwhile. And we do leave really feeling uplifted from our little bit of time there. A couple of the volunteers shared that they have relatives with Alzheimer's, and so in this way, they're sort of giving back, or it's in memory of someone that was near and dear to them that they saw face the same disease. Okay, so that in a nutshell is what we do, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Mary Lee. That was an excellent presentation.
Mary Lee, that was so inspiring. We thank you so much, and all the volunteers that actually volunteer out at Apple Grove. Again, excellent presentation. Thank you much. Now we're going to take a walk through the garden with Ms. Val. We're going to talk about some of our vegetable trials. So, Ms. Val, take it away.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Val Tingley. I'm a master gardener, volunteer here at the Victory Garden. I'm going to show you our vegetable garden. We were here starting in about 2009, and to start out, we planted in the ground, and now we've gone to raised beds, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. One of the first things we did is we put up a good fence because we wanted to keep out the deer and the other critters. So our gate is in need of a little help, so we have a Boy Scout that's going to do his Eagle project, and he's going to be rebuilding our gates for us, so that'll be wonderful. So first of all, we have our weighing station. Everything we grow is donated. So we weigh it every harvest, we weigh, and then we record it so we can see, how much from year to year. We have done between 3,000 and 4,000 pounds to charities each year, just, depending on the weather and the different things that we're growing. First off, we have our tomatoes here. We grow different varieties. These are celebrities, which are determinate. So they'll only grow to a certain height, and they kind of produce all at once, and then when they're done, they're done. We have some marigolds that we do companion planting with. Those help keep away the bad bugs. We have a lot of the indeterminates, and they'll get real tall, and they'll produce all the way till November. So they're really good for donating. We have some different varieties of peppers here. And in the beds, you'll also see some herbs, like this is some Thai basil. We do like to plant the herbs for the pollinators, and some of our places do enjoy getting the herbs as donation for their cooking skills. Here are some cabbages that are almost to the end of their life because it's a spring crop. We start planting in February, and so the spring crops are pretty much done because they don't like the heat of the summer and the bugs start getting to them. So these cabbages will probably be harvested in the next week or two, freeing up the beds for the next rotation. We grow from February all the way through December, so we're almost a year-round garden, but we have other projects that we do in the winter, which I'll talk about later. So a lot of the plants are donated from different nurseries. Some of our master gardeners start from seed in their houses and bring them. This is some kale that we have. And again, this is a spring crop, so it's almost to the end of its lifespan, but it's been doing pretty well. So let me talk about the raised beds. We have some wooden raised beds, 12 inches high, they're 8 feet long. And so they're pretty easy to put together. We have landscape fabric on the bottom to cut down on the weeds. They have a lot of benefits. They keep people from walking in the beds, so the pore space is maintained. The quality of the soil is easy to maintain. The watering, the drainage is much better. Cuts down on weeds, and they're very easy to harvest because you don't have to bend over as far. Another thing you're going to notice is our walkways. That was one of the first things we did. We leveled them out, and then we put landscape fabric down so that we don't have to harvest in the mud. And it's very accessible for kids, elderly, even wheelchairs, because they're very sturdy and no tripping hazards. So we have these trellises, and we've grown spring peas, which they did their job, and we pulled them out because they were done. So we planted our summer pole beans, so they're going to be growing. These wooden boxes, that's one of the downsides to the wooden boxes. They do rot after a while. So the Boy Scouts are going to be building new ones for us. But in the meantime, we needed to plant something. So we decided to use these old recycling bins. So we upcycled. We drilled holes in the bottom for drainage and just gave it a try. We're up for trying stuff. We learn as we go. So these have been pretty good. The peas did fine in them. So we're hoping that the beans, and of course we did the companion planting with the carrots. So they're almost ready to be picked. And back here we have our cinder block beds. Now they're a little bit more work to put in, obviously. They're heavy. They do dry out a little bit more, but they last forever. And they're very sturdy, and we can plant in the holes. We see strawberries. Strawberries tend to wander, so they keep contained a little bit in the cinder block holes. So we have our bush beans here, and we gave them some trellis to grow on, but they really are fine just to do the thing. We have a bunch of purple whole peas back there. Those are going to be ready pretty soon. Over on the other side, this is going to be our okra, and it was cabbage. The cabbage took a long time to mature this year for whatever reason. So the okra is a little slow starting, but we have a few little buds starting, and we have a UT trial. We have cucumbers, but we also have pumpkins. So we're gonna, just as a trial experiment, we're letting the pumpkins grow in amidst the okra just to see how that works. So we're gonna walk back to our cucumber trials. So we have 4 different varieties of cucumbers that we planted. 2 are slicers and 2 are the canning variety. So I've flagged the beds so that when the volunteers pick them, we know to weigh them separately and record the weights. And we're testing them for disease resistance, like the germination time, the production, of course, the flavor. So right over here, this is one of our slicers. It's called DMR 40. So that's just kind of your basic looking cucumber. This, I have to say, this has been the last one to produce. The other ones produced way before this one. And then this one here is one of our munchers. It's a canning variety, but you can see it's short and fat. So, and then over here is another canning variety called Greenlight. And those are just real pretty and smooth. And this is produced like crazy. And then this one over here is called General Lee, and it's another slicing variety. So you can see that, you know, it's just a nice basic cucumber. And then the rest of the cucumber beds are straight 8s. And so that's just a real reliable, disease-resistant kind of cucumber, and we grow those for donation. Of course, we'll donate these too, but those are just basic cucumbers. So let's walk over here.
Hey, we've got a few questions coming in, so I'll toss those to you. Do you, off the top of your head, do you know how many beds there are in total?
Tell you what, let me count them and I'll get right back to you.
Yeah, there you go.
33. She's
Very,
quick.
very fast counter.
So we have some beautiful cabbages. Yeah, go.
There were a couple questions about the variety trial, and I was just going to say, for folks that weren't aware, a lot of those cultivars are actually the UT Home Garden Variety Trial Program, and so it's exciting to have community gardens with great folks trialing those.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been really interesting, and it's not hard. I mean, I would suggest anybody could do it. It's, you know, we're trying to maintain consistency. So if we put like diatomaceous earth on one, we'll do it to all 4. And the watering, we're trying to do the same for all 4 beds, just so that there's no variables in between the beds. So we have some beautiful cabbages here that are like the size of basketballs, and they're going to be harvested pretty soon here because they're, you know, getting to the end of their life. But they've done beautifully. So I'm going to jump through here. So during the winter months, January, we have a project and we make seed tape. It's homemade seed tape. And we use this for our crops with tiny, tiny seeds like turnips, kale, mustard, radishes, carrots. The seeds are like the grain of sand and they're so hard to separate. And so it's really painstaking. If you plant them, then you have to go back and thin them. So what we do is we take the cheap toilet paper and we put it out and we put a little dab of glue and then plant 1 seed in each corner and then put another piece of toilet paper on top. So then all you have to do is to lay these flat on the beds, lay them all out in rows, sprinkle a little soil over them. So then whenever it gets watered, the toilet paper just disintegrates and then you have perfectly spaced seeds. So this bed of turnips, it's looking a little sad, but we use the seed tape. And so you can see it's all nice and spaced out. They're not clumped together and they've got plenty of air between them and the irrigation can hit them well. These are the Royal Crown hybrids. So one more thing I was going to show you, we have the sweet potatoes, and we have had problems with furry critters. We think they're moles or voles or rats or chipmunks or all of the above. So we put the netting over it to try to deter the digging rodents. And these will go all summer, and we'll harvest these probably September. And the sweet potatoes just do great in here.
Hey, we've got a couple questions about the glue and the seed tape. Was that just regular, like white school glue?
We actually use glue stick. And it's, you know, you can just buy the cheap stuff and just put a really small dab of glue stick on either side, take that little seed with a toothpick or something and put it and then make like a sandwich. I have heard of other techniques using like a flour and water slurry and then just use that as like a homemade glue, and that'll work too. Just put that with a little dab with a toothpick and then press the second sheet of toilet paper over it and then kind of, just keep stacking them up, put them in a bag, and then when it's time to plant, you just lay them out. So, any other questions?
Yeah, actually, there was a question about whether you have anything under your beds to protect from voles,
Yeah.
like hardware cloth on the edges or something.
Well, it's the same landscape fabric that we have in the walkways here. We just laid out this landscape fabric, which is really the thick, tough kind. And then we just set the beds right down on top of them, and then we started filling them with a mixture of soil, compost, decaying leaf litter. We do have one of our master gardeners donates pony manure that's been well aged, so we mix that in. So we have our own kind of soil mix that's done well for us. We try to be sustainable. We don't claim to be organic, but we try to use only natural pesticides like diatomaceous earth, the copper fungicide, pyrethrin, and BT. And then the soil amendments would be like bone meal, milorganite, just all, we try to stay all natural if we can and not use a whole lot of chemicals.
I'm gonna hand this to Val. There we go. Hi, I'm Teresa Devlin, Memphis area master gardener. I've been working here for about 5 years. Among one of the many volunteers that we have who come out to the garden about 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays to harvest and to work. We're a wonderful group of volunteers. The area that I'm going to touch on today is going to be our irrigation system. So in the past, we were using overhead irrigation, which is very wasteful. We estimated that we were probably using over 800 gallons a week more with the overhead than we are currently now that we've installed the drip. We have 5 zones set up with 4 different timers. We do get our water from the church. They're very generous in donating the water to us, so we don't have to worry about a water source. But because of the length that it has to travel, we do have to stagger the timers. They go off anytime between 6:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock or 8 a.m. in the morning. Now let's go into kind of a little bit more about the drip irrigation. So the project was started last year by Melissa, and it was carried, she's a Memphis area master gardener, and then it was carried on this year by Terry Ingram. And Terry really was the one who really kind of taught us how to put all these pieces together. So we're extremely thankful, because it is a big task to turn it over into what we do. Is we have piping that runs to connect each bed, and we have a variety of different type of heads. These are called mister heads. I'm going to ask Deanna to turn it on, and it's going to give us a little bit of a kind of a display, and you can see how the different mister heads work. And then we also have direct drip. So if Ginny passes and turns back this way, because it's actually on zone 4, you see we have our beds numbered. So we have zones 1 and 4. This would be a direct drip. We have individual 1/4-inch flexible tubing that sends the water to it really the most efficient way. We also have the micro mist spinners. We have 3 different types of those, and then we have a bubbler. But I don't believe I could show you the bubbler because it's buried into one of our beds. You'll notice as we walk a little bit further into the garden over here, I have a tall one set up. This is not installed yet, but what we're going to be doing is once our sweet potato vines, you know how they grow and they take over everything. Once they start, we're going to have to raise this up a little bit more. Oh, look, so that what we'll do is we'll change out to a bubbler, and it kind of bubbles out the top of that. Most of these materials were purchased. We started with about $1,000 investment, and then the rest of it was donated by Terry, and kind of so it is possible to merge your your Rainbird. We have some Rainbird that you can buy directly at Lowe's and Home Depot. You can merge that, or you can buy from the website. At the end of the season, as Val was pointing out, we do close all of our beds down. We let things kind of rest. We cover everything in plastic. And it is necessary because Memphis is the zone that we're in. It is necessary to detach and cap off the top end, but we don't cap off the bottom ends, because if there's any water left in the system, we want it to be able to drain out. We don't want, I mean, it's fairly flexible tubing, but at the same time, you don't want the ice to expand. You'll see if Ginny kind of pans over towards the right, we do have 2 rain barrels here at the garden. They're just mainly used for storage. We do, because we get the water from the church property, we are dependent on when they turn on the irrigation. So at times we just like to store water. We don't have them hooked up to anything, but it's very convenient. We keep a few buckets on hand because we do have to hand water from time to time, especially when, you know, we get into the heat of the summer on a day like today where we're all sweating bullets. I'm going to walk through the back of the garden, and we're going to take a tour of the compost area. But yeah, we do rotate our crops. We do take note of what's been planted where. For example, this bed last year was all okra. So now we're putting in the sweet potatoes. The okra is going up there in plot 5, where Val pointed out, in the cinder blocks, because that was had cabbage in it. And we moved all of our tomatoes up front. We had some tomatoes here in the back, but it makes it more accessible. And like I said, there's some shade back here, so we want to make sure we control for the fungus. If I didn't point that out before, that's another great part of having the drip irrigation that we have now, is we don't have to worry about our fungus and diseases that we would when you've got the overhead only watering the tops of the plant. We do have a lot of humidity and moisture in Memphis, so we have to be very cautious of the fungal diseases and such. I can show you, what I'm going to do is we're going to start off with the new addition to the garden that we're very proud of. This is a worm farm. It was donated by Bill Abresh. He has a worm farm down in Mississippi. It actually was arranged by another master gardener. She arranged for him to bring it to us. And what it is this bin is full of compost, a compost mix of soil, dried leaves, pony manure, and then we put in 2 buckets. This happened on Monday. 2 buckets of worms. Let me dig in here and see if I can find some for you. There they are, red worms. Now with the worms, the reason that we placed it back here in the shade is heat will kill your worms. Heat and cold will kill the worms. And if they were to suffocate due to lack of airflow. So we will keep this covered with this light mesh so it has some airflow. We will also water it at least 3 times a week to make sure that it stays moist. We will top it with, we have some shredded cardboard here. We'll probably, once we finish harvesting the cabbage, we had some cabbage leaves on top. We're going to lay more of them on top. You want a light covering on. Some other people, Bill had recommended from his worm farm, he uses chicken feed and vegetable scraps. We do have to be cautious of that because this is on the exterior of our garden space. And as Val pointed out, we do have little critters. We had a family of rabbits who were living amongst us last year. And although they're cute, we don't need them eating all of our vegetables. So we don't want to attract anything. We're on a church property. We're surrounded by neighborhoods. So we're just going to keep it at putting in the cabbage leaves, maybe some mature compost, and feed them like that. This is a new project for us. So we do a lot of trial and error. I can show you that we already have 5 buckets accumulated of this lovely worm tea that does not have to be diluted like compost tea. Put it directly on your garden, full of nutrients. The next place I will take you here is how we start our compost. We start the compost in these bins back here, again in the shade, because we found that when we're putting in our pea vines and such, too much heat, it can kind of create a bit of a smelly mess. These are old compost spinners. The lid has broken off, so we're just going to repurpose them. We put that in there because, you know, we certainly don't, once we're like with the cabbage and all that, we don't want to throw that away. We're, as Val said, we're sustainable, so we try to reuse everything we possibly can. Those 2 are filled with that. And okay, I will then quickly show you the final product right here. This is the final product. We have, this is mature compost. It's just a few months old. Again, it's in the shade in a ventilated area because we found that last year we were taking our mature compost. We want to reincorporate it into our beds and our soil, but if we had things growing in it, we needed a storage. We put it in large garbage bins in the sun with a lid on it. Killed all the worms. It was the worst, but you know, we're learning, and so we decided that this method is much better. We can do a light covering of the cabbage leaves just to kind of keep it cool. We water from time to time, just having this tarp here. Here is another type of compost we have, which is the dried up, chopped up leaves. We have a Boy Scouts that we collaborate with. They rake up all the leaves in the fall. We put them into a leaf pile. We rotate the pile, and in the end result, we have this. So to make our wonderful soil, we use our compost, mature pony manure that is donated, and a dry leaf mulch. I hope you enjoyed the tour of our garden. We're all very, very pleased to work here, and we welcome volunteers. You can just follow us on our Facebook page.
I want to thank the ladies for this tour today. This is Collierville Victory Garden. The volunteers do a tremendous job out here, as you can well see. And I would like to say this. I actually take off the extension hat, and I will put on my volunteer hat, and I come out here and volunteer as well. It's a chance for me to engage with my volunteers. We talk about plants. We talk about gardening. Folks, we talk about life. We just have a great time. And I will say this. The ladies put me to work out here, too. So, again, we have a good time. Thank you for being a part of this tour today. And, Celeste, if there's any questions, please let us know. And before you do that, let's thank Miss Jenny Fletcher for being on the camera for us today. You don't see her, but she is there. So thank you, Miss Jenny. And again, thank you all for being a part of this tour. Again, we're all excited about today. So Celeste, if there's any questions for the ladies or for me, let us know.
There sure are. There are some good questions about the worms. So one question was, how do you harvest them? And then the second question was, what do you do with them once you've harvested them?
Suppose that we would harvest.
We use them mostly for their the water that drips out of them, the tea that they make. So that's like a byproduct of the worms. If their population just gets so huge that they're like crowding out each other, we would probably take some and then put them in our garden beds and add more soil, and then they can kind of regrow.
So actually, the reason that I'm not here is because we got a special surprise to share for the end of our meeting. As you heard on our June 5th visit, we had a new coordinator award category, and so we celebrated Rachel, who was the early stage coordinator award. And what Chris doesn't know is that his volunteers right here in the Memphis Area Master Gardeners nominated him as the Experience Coordinator of Excellence. And so we're excited to celebrate with Chris today.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah. Hey, Jenny didn't even know. Like, nobody knew that. It's a surprise to everybody. So, of course, there's, we could talk about Chris for a long time, but I think that it suffices to say his passion, his dedication, his leadership sets a very high bar across the state, and we're all just honored and excited to be able to work with you. So
with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Chris for a couple minutes and give him a chance to thank all these fabulous folks and send us out.
Wow, Nelly, I'm supposed to speak after that?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you much. God, it's almost emotional to me. How about that? But again, I just want to thank the ladies, you know, out here. They did a wonderful job. Miss Teresa, of course, Miss Val, Miss Deanna, Miss Leah. Yes, I won't forget about Miss. Hey, I won't forget about Miss Twyla. I know she's out there watching. So Miss Twyla, I hope you're happy. You know, I hope this made you feel so good inside, because it definitely made us feel so good. I want to thank Miss Jenny as well. Let's thank Dr. Natalie for the opportunity. How about that? You know, when she first brought this up, I was like, you know what? Maybe we should come out west. Come west. So, you know, I talked to the volunteers, and they're pretty much like, okay. So they pulled it out. So I'm definitely proud of them, proud of the work that they're doing. Let's not forget Miss Mary Lee Hood. That horticulture therapy presentation was excellent. So thank you, Miss Mary Lee. If you have any questions about horticulture therapy, the programs that we're doing here at Aqua Grove, give Miss Mary Lee a call or send her email. So again, thank you all for being here. I'm at a loss for words now, y'all. I'm at a loss for words. So thank you again, Dr. Natalie. Definitely appreciate you being here today. And thank you all for being here as well. Have a great weekend. And to you fathers out there, to you dads, happy Father's Day. So there you have it. Thank y'all much. Have a good day.
All right. July 3rd, we'll send you some videos. It's a holiday. July 17th, we'll be live in Jackson. So have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Oh, y'all got me.
We're so good. Yay!
That was good.